Hey everyone, welcome to Culture Binge, where we feast on the zeitgeist and ever so tenderly regurgitate it for you, our dear listener. For everyone watching live, hey, I'm your host Alec, and I'm joined here by Wisecrack researcher Serby. How's it going?
Hi, I'm well, thank you.
And gracing us again with his presence is Wisecrack writer, Doctor of Dread, probably not an arsonist, Michael Burns.
Hey, we didn't start the fire. Well, we wanted to.
We've got a lot of cool stuff to talk. Let me do that again. We've got a lot of cool stuff to talk about today. I've got an Adventures in Late Capitalism. I know it's been a while with KFC's new dating simulator. Serby's going to talk about the art of being a late bloomer, which sounds very interesting. And Burns is bringing us something about labor and laziness and delivery apps. I don't fully understand what you're about to tell us about, but I can't wait. So that sounds very exciting. All right. So before we continue, it's that time for the worst name segment ever. What do you love this week and what do you hate this week? What slaps? What chaps your ass? Why don't you start, Serby?
Okay, so what chaps is that last weekend there was an extended free trial of YouTube TV. So rather than the traditional 5 days, you would get 3 weeks. So I was like, oh, okay, well, I want to get rid of my cable, but I don't know what streaming service to get. And I've heard good things about YouTube TV. So I jumped on to sign up, and I was still within the time frame to sign up. But every time I went to the site, I only got the 5-day offer rather than the 3-week offer. And it was really upsetting to me. I can't even tell you. I was really sad about it. Mostly because I hate when things like that happen. Like when you're ready for something and it's just not there. So that chapped.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you for your
I can't believe you still have cable. I didn't think any millennial did.
I do. And it just went up. I pay like $200 a month or something.
What the fuck? That's more.
That's a lie.
So you got problems.
It's outrageous. But I have a bundle. Are you
using your parents' Netflix?
No, I don't even have Netflix. I'm so cheap. I don't buy
What?
Netflix. So I need to get Netflix too.
Here's a fun fact. I don't want to categorically say this is true, but Wisecrack, I don't know if you know this, we're a media company. We talk also about media, and almost everyone on the team uses a family member's Netflix and or Hulu and doesn't have their own.
Well, that's
Can you
the
get
thing.
like a
Nobody in my
company
family
account
has it.
and make profiles for everyone? I'm putting pressure on your management right now. That's what they should do, right? I bet there's a deal you can get. All right.
Jacob,
All right.
are you listening?
What he is. What's good this week, Serby?
What's good is that I decided that I need to have a stronger work-life balance. So I'm going to try different things to see what relaxes me or brings me joy. I used to read mukbang. Yeah. Well, I ate fries the other day at In-N-Out, and
Yeah.
I was like eating them very slowly and was like, oh God, this would be so good if somebody's recording me right now. I used to read a lot, but I am so stressed out and like either really drained or fired up from work that I just don't have the the energy to read leisurely anymore. So if anyone has suggestions on improving work-life balance or has an interesting hobby, I would love to hear it.
Smash your phone. I don't know. What about you, Michael?
Wait, are we starting slap or chap?
You could start with either.
Oh, I'll start with the slap's the good one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with that because I think
Slaps. That's what the
this
kids say.
relates to Serby's thing. I really like, and I've used this for a while, but I'll just bring it up, the app Libby, which connects you to your public library and lets you download ebooks and listen to audiobooks for free. It's a great public service. Different libraries in different cities and states might use different apps, but I think most libraries in most states now do this. And in California, at least, you don't even have to have a physical library card. You just go online and like tell them that you live there, and they give you a little code. And it's really nice. And it's actually increased the number of books I read. And there's lots of good stuff on there, all the new releases. The only bad thing about it is then when you listen to an audiobook on the app, you find yourself telling people, I was reading, and then you pause to be like, I was listening to. But I think that's a good thing. It makes me happy.
Have you read recently that you've really liked?
Well, actually, a book that I brought up, I think a month ago when I was on here, Michael Pollan's How to Change Your Mind, the long book about like psychedelic research. I listened to that, and that one was really great. I've listened to some more embarrassing stuff on there, things that I'm not going to bring up. And I'm currently waiting for this book that came out. I forget what it's called, but it's about like Harper Lee and how Truman Capote like ruined her life and stuff like that, and why she didn't write for a bunch of years.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I've been really into the library the last year, but also cookbooks. So there's all these fancy cookbooks, and then I buy them, and then I never make anything because the recipes are too complicated. But now I can just check them out, look at them, and then decide not to cook anything, and then return them. It's awesome.
Well, that's a good idea. And you could just like take a picture on your phone of the recipe page and keep that if you wanted it too.
That's theft. All right, like we're a moral pot. No, I'm just kidding. Cool. And then, so what's chapping your ass?
Okay. Anyone watching, listening, just imagine that it's 7 years ago when I say this, and it'll seem a lot more current. So everyone, I started watching the show called Game of Thrones a few weeks ago that I never watched the first time around.
Why?
And what happens is I'll go like 4 or 5 episodes. I'm like, this is a great show. I'm such an idiot for not watching this initially. And I get home from work and it's a long day and I put one on and now I'm watching like incest, rape, murder, child dying, and it bums me out so bad. And then I find myself thinking, how the F did all you sociopaths watch this for so many years and think it was great? And it just like, I've never watched a show that takes me so high and then drops me so low. And
it goes so much lower, and I can't.
Wait,
I actually feel bad for you because it goes so much lower.
I mean, I can say a reference that would be a spoiler right now, right? Because
yeah, just people.
Well,
your thing for 10 seconds.
I'm in season 5 right now. If you're not past season 5, earmuff it. I just saw the guy burn his own damn daughter.
Oh,
yeah.
Didn't see that coming, and it was really upsetting. It was like really upsetting. And then it's I don't know. And once again, I know that everyone in culture had these conversations a long time ago, and those that read the books had these conversations a very long time ago. But yeah, it's the most upsetting piece of media that I've ever still wanted to consume.
That was one of the hardest scenes for me to watch, like in the entire series. When that happened, it was devastating.
Yeah, it sucked. Rest in peace.
As for me, what I'm really loving is that Area 51, the event was canceled because they didn't want to endanger people's lives. So good job to those people. For anyone else who wants to see them aliens, just send me a message when you do, but please don't. And then as far as what chaps is, I haven't seen any yet, but I'm just assuming it's true. What chaps my ass is any brand that decides to tweet about 9/11 today.
Ooh, that's going to happen.
Yeah. I think it's historically happened and they get made fun of, but yeah. So I think with that, we'll get into our topics. And for anyone just joining, we're going to be talking about the KFC dating sim. We're going to be talking about delivery apps. We're going to be talking about being a late bloomer. Before that, I want to let everyone know that our South Park podcast, Respect Our Authority, is returning September 26th.
Yay!
Yay. Sorry, I had to catch my breath and that sounded very, very sarcastic. Yay. Every week we'll be discussing the latest episode of season 23. So join Jared, Amanda, Lux, and Ryan for some South Park fun. You can subscribe on your favorite podcast app. I think it's on all of them, whether it's Spotify or iTunes or whatever iTunes is calling their podcast app. I don't care. Go find it. Respect Our Authority.
Isn't it crazy
that
there's people that could go to a bar and order a drink legally that are younger than South Park?
Yes.
It just makes me feel so old when you said 23rd season. God.
Yeah. We're very old. Also, I've just informed that there's links in the description of this live stream and possibly in the podcast episode. So go check that out. It's great. Now onto the show. The actual show. If anyone remember, I had the segment idea, Adventures in Late Capitalism. Not a lot has happened since I brought up, I think, Burger King pretending to have depression or making an advertisement about depression. But something finally is worthy of that. So we've talked about how brands want to be your best friend, how they want to be human. Now it seems like brands want you to fuck them. As KFC launches a dating sim game that comes out later this month. Here's the description from Steam. I Love You, Colonel Sanders, a finger-licking good dating simulator, that's the full title, follows you, a promising culinary student, as you try to date your classmate, Colonel Sanders. Throughout your journey, you'll be faced with life-changing decisions that will affect your chances of friendship and love. But be careful, your choices have real consequences with real animated characters' feelings at stake. Do you have what it takes to survive culinary school? Will Colonel Sanders choose you to be his business partner? Or maybe even so much more. Find out in the most finger-licking good dating simulator ever created, a game that KFC actually made. It advertises 9 lovable characters, the ability to earn a degree from a fictional culinary school, as if that's like a big selling point for people. And also at the end of their little things that the game includes, officially created by KFC, no really. So as far as anyone can tell, this is 100% real. And there's a trailer. Can we put that up?
Professor Dog.
Very, very anime inspired. Colonel Sanders, to be fair, is like a silver-haired fox.
Now I get it. I would.
He's the thirst trap.
Yeah, he has a good body. He is going to make you good food after whatever happens.
Are you supposed to date the corgi also? There's a corgi.
That's Professor Dog, it said.
Professor what?
Professor Dog. You have to look at the text, man. I assume the corgi is one of the lead professors at culinary school. Right? It's going to come up in a second. So there's the rivals. Professor Dog.
Yeah, okay.
So I think you like look up to him and learn from him, but I don't think you date. You don't date your professor.
So no dating the corgi.
No, that's unethical.
Well, that's good to know. So first impressions. I've got some other stuff to say, but what do you think, Serby?
This is so stupid. And I feel like I should get a job at KFC in the marketing department, because apparently you can just do whatever you want over there and you can get away with it. So I don't understand, like, what is the point of this? Like, to bring awareness? It's obviously not like a consideration stage play. So what are you doing? Like, this is just so stupid. It's a waste of money.
It's free, so it's not a waste of money, but definitely a waste of time, although it advertises multiple hours of gameplay as if there's maybe like 3 or 4.
Are there any features, though, where if I like get to a certain level, or if I go on like a third date with the fry cook, that I get like 50% off an order at KFC? Is there any like synergy between my actual consumptive experience and my use of the app?
I hope so, and I hope there's a coupon that you like have to show on your phone that says, I fucked Colonel Sanders, get a free chicken sandwich.
And then the person at the register is like, we got a Colonel Fucker special for this guy. So everyone knows that you fucked the Colonel.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. I think the thing that I'm thinking about, and we're actually working on a Medium article about this, being written by Amanda, so I'm stealing some of her ideas. But I brought this up to her, and she's like, oh, it's all about eroticism and marketing, which has always been true. Really. Everyone knows that sex sells. But this seems a little bit different because in her research, she just found like one of the earliest examples. I think the campaign started in 1911. And it's Woodbury's facial soap. And the tagline was "A skin you love to touch." And at least according to some sources, it's like the first using sex to sell. But by today's standards, it seems barely sexual at all. It's just like a guy embracing a woman, and maybe like he's not even caressing her face, but maybe in other ads he is. And so there's that. But also, if anyone's familiar with Edward Bernays, real quick, we're not frozen, are we?
You are.
You are.
And your mouth is
Okay.
agape. I want to see if I can get a picture of this while I can.
I know. I was screenshotting it.
All right. While we're waiting for that to resolve, I want to thank Dude Abides 85 for donating once again.
I love that guy.
A week without serving Alex Smile is a week without sunshine. Mike is growing on me. Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you,
and
dude.
can you all give your best KFC themed pickup lines? So
I'd like to show you my drumstick.
My love is saucy and tender.
your love is saucy and tender. I need to call back, I've been informed, so I'll be right back.
Anyone want to taste my coleslaw?
I don't know about that one, to be honest.
That's gross.
Yeah.
And I felt really gross after that. It's like
I'll give you
big screen.
the full bucket.
Oh, yeah.
There's other stuff, but some of them are just so gross that I don't want to ruin anyone's day.
Yeah.
Wait, so if there was a restaurant that you would like to play a romantic app with, what would it be? You have to pick a fast food or fast casual chain.
In-N-Out.
Oh, you didn't even have to think about it.
Like, it would have to be In-N-Out because I want like a coupon where I get like free fries or something.
I feel like with In-N-Out, whoever the main character was, it would come off as sexual, but then in the final level, he like turns the cup over and reads you a Bible verse, and then tries to convert you to the cause. So you would, the guise of sex would lead to religion.
There was this guy I dated in college, and he would we would go to In-N-Out every now and then, and he would flip the cup over, and then he would read the Bible verse, like whatever the number and passage was, and then he would tell it to me. And I was like, God, I gotta break up with this guy. Like,
I think I'm not frozen. Hooray!
Yay!
Thanks for allegedly entertaining these fine people. But anyway, all right. Sorry, I was talking about sex and advertising. Have you guys heard of Edward Bernays? I think a lot of people have.
Heard of Bernays sauce?
He's Freud's nephew who kind of took Freud's ideas about dicks mostly and imported them into American advertising.
Isn't there the documentary about him, like the Century of the Self?
The Century of the Self, yeah. That's where I think first encountered this. And I watched it a long, long time ago. But just talking about sort of like sex and marketing in context of KFC, he famously targeted suffragettes, women agitating for the right to vote at the time, for cigarette advertising because his theory was, based on Freud, that everyone wants a penis. You know, like women have penis envy, and the penis represented like power and individuality and independence, and that's like the thing to sell them on. So they called cigarettes freedom torches, and there was these suffragette marches where they're all smoking cigarettes. And I couldn't find this, but I swear to God, at one point he said, you know, everyone wants a dick in their mouth. So,
well,
fast forward, fast forward, you know, almost a century, and now KFC literally wants us to bang their mascot. And yeah, I think you could view it. I guess the question is this just a dumb idea someone had, or is this like part of the trend of not only do brands want to be human, authentic, you want to connect with them? Well, wouldn't it be even better if you wanted to do our mascot for that sort of subconscious association?
See, I don't think they intended that. Maybe I'm being too optimistic here. I just think it's like another product of brand absurdity and this weird idea that like brands become a part of everything and brands do silly jokes and like it's like a weird extension of like brands tweeting as if they are people. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But maybe that someone in a corporate boardroom was like, let's make them want to fuck the colonel. But it just seems like an extension of that weird logic.
It's what they were thinking, but they were too embarrassed to admit it.
I think that it's like a way to generate like press and things without having to pay for it. So the amount of money that they're receiving in free publicity is probably in the millions. And so why not create something absurd where people are talking about KFC rather than like do like placements and push ads and things like that. Yeah. So I think it's smart in that way, but for me, I just think that it taints the brand a little bit, like especially something like this where we have to like
their pristine brand.
Well, yeah, as if it's so wonderful, but I do think that it makes me look at it in a weird light. Like you want me to like fuck your Colonel Sanders or whatever, or like date the thing. Like I don't know, it just seems weird. I think it's too removed from the brand and from their mission of providing finger looking good chicken or whatever their whole motto is.
Well, it's weird timing too, because one of their competitors, I assume this is one of their competitors, Popeyes, just had tons of publicity in national news for an actual product at their restaurant. So it's like the complete opposite of that. Popeyes blowing up for a food item, and now KFC getting attention for an anime tinged dating experience.
Yeah. Is there a specific brand mascot that you particularly think that you want a dating simulator of?
Mr. Clean Guy.
All right, that's a good one.
I guess.
He's just the first one I
So a food brand or a brand in general that we would wanna
Just
date?
any brand.
Oh, IKEA for sure.
What's IKEA's?
Oh, I just
The
assume
wood,
it's
you want to
some
fuck
like
the wooden table?
really design conscious Swedish woman who always has frozen meatballs in the freezer and those cans of cider they sell in the stores sometimes. And her house would be really like cool looking and design conscious. And I don't know, she or he, I'm not going to gender their mascot, but I'm sure in Sweden they probably have something. So if someone wants to look that up, please do. But whatever IKEA has, I want it.
Yeah. I can't. My mind is really fixating on the creepy Burger King guy because I think it would be funny.
The king?
Yeah, the king.
And do you want the actual king or do you want what's underneath the costume?
The king, the facade of the king.
So you're gonna do the shh. No, keep it on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that should be an option in the game.
Yeah. Well, that's fun. This went to a fun place.
Yeah. Anyway, probably on to maybe a more serious topic is, not Michael Burns. Serby, you want to talk about being a late bloomer. This is an article, I think, in the Harvard Business Review. I think the link is in the description. Oh, I can't hear Serby.
She said, what?
Hey,
You don't
everyone.
hear me?
Sorry for all the technical problems.
Someone's out to get us today.
People in the comments, I'm looking at them right now. If you wanted to say funny mascots that you'd want to bang in a dating simulator.
Please.
Flaxy, I see Flaxy, the IKEA mascot. The big orange chicken is lovable and well-behaved mascot of furniture superhero store.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can, Serby. Oh, I didn't even get to read. Well, I didn't get any message that I saw. But anyway, Pepsi Man's not a person. Is Pepsi Man a person?
Let's say yes. I've immediately visualized something.
Oh, I just thought of the best one. It's clearly the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, I thought of Y too, but I can't say it.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, Serby, you're here to talk about the art of being a late bloomer.
Oh,
my
she's
God,
gone
we can't
again.
hear her. Serby, try leaving and calling back. I'm going to keep reading. People apparently want to date the Wendy's mascot, the Uncle Ben Rice guy. I think.
Ooh, Wendy's a child.
Oh, yeah, that's gross. Sorry.
I'll assume they meant after she graduates college.
Yeah. Five Guys. I don't really know the mascot, but just Five Guys in itself seems
brand.
great.
There's the Chick-fil-A cows.
Captain Crunch, M&M. These are all great responses, people.
Who else is there? Oh, the leprechaun from Lucky Charms. You gotta catch him first, but the thrill of the chase. Who else is there? No one said Ronald McDonald yet?
Oh, clowns are kind of weird, but all right.
People have to have a clown thing.
Someone said Flo from
that's like a
Someone
real
said
person,
Flo, and I
though.
disagree because they're just a person. Like that's just an actress that you're attracted to. It's not as fun.
Yeah, that's like cool if you know what I mean. I'm sure she's nice, but that's we can't fetishize a real person.
Yeah.
That's weird. Now we can talk about banging out on cartoon mascots all day.
We could, but Serby, I'm assuming we can hear you now.
No.
Oh no.
Wait, you just type what you want us to say and we'll say it for you?
Yeah, we'll read it.
Can you hear
Oh!
me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so I
don't-
unplugged my microphone.
Okay, that's fine. Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. So in the Harvard Business Review, there's this great article about blooming later in life. And this was inspired by Rich Karlgaard's book, Late Bloomers. In it, he argues that society's obsession with early achievement prevents people from pursuing their passions. Basically, there's this cultural expectation that we're all supposed to figure out our lives really young, rather than engage in this long process of self-discovery, which involves taking one's time to learn our interests and carve out our path. So it might be, going to college later in life or taking different classes, developing different skills. So According to the article, the result is that many people select professional excellence over personal fulfillment, and oftentimes we lose ourselves in the process. And when this happens, when we feel the pressure to specialize at an early age, it's natural for people to feel lost and depressed since they're not meeting the cultural expectation of having everything figured out when they're 21 and freshly graduating from school. So this is a two-part discussion. So I want to stop here and talk first about, do you agree that there's this cultural expectation to figure your life out at an early age?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I just quickly, it makes me think of that tweet that went viral last week of the guy who was like 18 and already owned my home. What have you done? Or something like that. But this idea that the younger you are and the more you're ticking those traditional metrics, that's somehow like a good thing or a signifier of success. I don't know. I think that's a thing.
Yeah, I think it's a huge problem right now, and even in New York City where I am, all kids are thinking about is kind of getting into the school they want and getting the good test scores. And someone even anecdotally told me that the school they wanted to get into, if they missed more than 2 days of school, they'd be like off the list or moved down the list. And so yeah, that general professional pressure, although the only thing that I have in my mind, and I don't really have an answer here, but I had heard a while ago, and I think it still might be the case, in places like Germany, they often, your middle school and high school, or the equivalent of that in Germany, you'll sort of, a lot of people get kind of like funneled into trades so that, you're learning how to be, an electrician or certain sort of hard skills. And then so you're kind of ready to go. And on one end, the idea of someone deciding they want to be an electrician for the rest of their life when they're 12 or 13 seems a little like but at the same time, I think, kind of to the point of this article, that oftentimes people kind of figure out what they want to do later in life, and it almost might be better to be making good money as an electrician, figure out what you want to do and pursue that, versus like getting a degree in a thing that you don't really care about, owing $200,000 in debt and having no money, and then wanting to pursue your passion but having no money to do so. So yeah, I don't know, what do you think of that?
I agree. I think that there is a pressure, and I think that people should take some time before they figure it out. I sort of think, like, from my understanding of the education system in the UK, you seem to specialize quite early with your GCSEs and A levels, and then your 3-year university degree is just like a very intense course and what you want to learn. But what if you don't know what you want to learn when you're like 14 or 15? So I think you should like maybe do a trade or take your time and figure it out. Otherwise, it's like you're stuck with it. And then how do you ever come back from that?
Yeah, I would see this a lot when I used to teach at a university in the UK, and especially in Scotland, where they start university at 17 if they want to. It was wild to me that you had, people at 17 years old already had to decide, like, this is the thing I'm going to study, the thing I'm going to be specialized in. And in some cases, you finish university and you're 20, 21 years old. And I don't know, I think a lot of us change our mind about stuff like that. So, but at the same time, I guess there's this increased pressure towards specialization in the workplace. I think the liberal arts degree, or even the liberal arts, let's not even talk about university life, like a sort of liberal arts background in general seems less valued. People that know a little bit about a lot, we seem to value people that know a lot about a little in a very increased way, especially when it comes to like tech jobs and stuff like that. And I think a lot of that's tied to money, right? The idea that the more specialized you are, the better your financial future could be.
Yeah, because if you want to make a ton of money, go to school for computer science or finance, and then have a midlife crisis, divorce your wife, and write a novel or something. Yeah, it's shitty, and I think maybe this is just like the old man in me. I think it is getting worse than that. Like, kids are no longer able to just sort of do whatever they feel like. They have to be thinking about college already from middle school, and thinking, I guess the one good thing about our terrible sort of like student debt and that whole situation is that there is kind of an expectation that you're going to major in whatever and it's not actually going to matter. You're going to major in English and then end up working in advertising, right?
Yeah.
And so like you have that flexibility if everyone more or less understands in America that if you have a liberal arts degree, it doesn't dictate your career. But there are some people who think, oh, I'm going to major in archaeology and become an archaeologist, and that almost never happens. Unless, of course, you do finance. But then again, with a finance degree, you could probably also work in advertising or some other. Advertising just keeps coming to mind, but like other fields as well.
Well, and I think like not to get over philosophical here, a lot of this boils down to a question of what is the purpose of humanity? What are our lives for? Is it to be as productive as possible as soon as possible, or is it to explore the various potentials and capacities of what it means to be human? And I think that in a certain world, there's one version of life. I don't know, there's a certain philosopher and economist from the 19th century who imagined a vision of the future where labor was so reduced that we would have time to read books and take walks and go to the theater and explore all these different aspects of life without needing to be tied to our jobs. It's Marx. Marx is who I'm talking about. And I think
I thought that was also Keynes. Keynes was like, yeah, you're going to work 4 hours a week. The future's going to be dope.
Yeah, but I think like regardless of one's political or economic affiliations, I think there's something about that vision that's reflective of a certain political reality where what it means to be human is to like keep blooming, I guess, to not get to a point where you're like 22 and I'm fully bloomed. This is who I am for the rest of my life. There's the time and potential to explore. And it seems like something about our current moment, maybe back to, adventures in late capitalism a little bit. We live in a society that doesn't intentionally create space or that doesn't intentionally value the space for that type of like, whether it's a continued blooming or a re-blooming, to stick with the floral metaphor here.
Serby, what was the next topic, the next part of this conversation you had?
Okay, so I'll move on, but before that, if anybody lives in a country or has a culture where there is space to discover and to figure things out, could you please email or comment, because that is so interesting and I would love to see how that is used in practice.
Culturebinge at wisecrack.co. Yeah.
So basically we're saying Scandinavians, please email?
Yeah, Scandinavians is what I'm thinking of. So continuing on, there's a book called Dark Horse that explores people who unexpectedly achieved great success at a later age. So this is from the book. Despite feeling bored or frustrated, underutilized or overwhelmed, most dark horses reluctantly plodded along for years before finally coming to the realization they were not living a fulfilled life. So after a period of restlessness, quiet ambition, these seemingly average people who had regular jobs in administration or technology were able to transform their cravings, predilections, and fascinations into successful careers, for example, as entrepreneurs and celebrated craftsmen. So the authors of Dark Horse suggest that people can bloom late, and it doesn't matter what your previous profession is. If you create what they call a micromotive, which is a goal tailored to an extremely specific activity that truly inspires you, you can bloom. So for example, there's a woman who left her job in politics to form a firm that declutters and redesigns homes and offices. Her micromotive was organizing physical space. So what's important about her micromotive is that it's not vague or general. She didn't say something like, I want to own my own business, or I want to do something that involves creativity. She identified a specific action that made her happy and used it as her guide. And at the end of the article, there's this great point that it's never too late to become yourself, and that there's value in taking a winding path to self-fulfillment because it cultivates creativity, resilience, and flexibility. So further emphasizing the point that people can bloom at any time, Carl Gard, who we discussed earlier, the author of Late Bloomers, cites the work of psychologist Erik Erikson, saying that the ages 40 to 64 constitute a unique period where one's creativity and experience combine with a universal human longing to make our lives matter. So what do you feel What do you think about this idea of a micro motive, and do you think that's enough to help people feel like they can bloom at any point, that they didn't pass their time?
I can start in that. I definitely agree with like it's never too late. I think one of the things it said is that a lot of successful companies are started by like 45-year-old entrepreneurs. I love most Gimlet podcast, and it was a guy who worked in public radio, Alex Bloomberg, for God knows how long, and then sold a company for $20 million. He's either in his 50s or maybe early 60s. Yeah. Maybe he's late 40s. Do you know?
No, he's 50s. I remember when I found out how old he was, I thought I was shocked because he has a young affect to his voice.
Yeah, and I think there's that like idea that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, which I think is not true. And you always see on probably the parts of Instagram I hate most, but like the motivational thing, like a 50-year-old who got super ripped all of a sudden, or, you know, are just sort of living their best lives, or, you know, hiking the, you know, Appalachian Trail or something like that. So I do think it's sort of never too late. And I've sort of encountered that in my life. But the other thing I'll say as far as micro goals, I think that's cool. I'm kind of an asshole. The only thing that I'm just like, what if their goals are dumb? And I just go back. We talked about this before, but there's a person who's like a philanthropist, and they're going to create this foundation and raise millions of dollars, and essentially they've reinvented the library instead of just. And so like they're probably going through this similar thing, but they should just give that money to the library instead.
I kind of think rather than like to join on the asshole train a little bit. Sorry. But no, the micro goal thing is interesting, but I think maybe like phrasing it or thinking about it like a sense of curiosity or like a general openness of perspective. And this is making me think of, I listened to a podcast last night where this guy named David Epstein was interviewed, and he has a book that just came out called Range, the subtitle being Why Generalist Triumph in a Specialized World. And the argument of the book is basically the logic of specialization is wrong. People that are successful are people that do bounce around a lot. And even the guy who interviewed him on the podcast is this basketball writer I like, Zach Lowe. And I never knew this guy Zach Lowe, who's I think in his like late 30s, went from studying journalism to being a English teacher at a high school to being a crime writer for a local newspaper to being in a PhD program in history, and eventually found himself writing about basketball. But he kind of, in this podcast, talked about how...
Is that how you nerdivize your life? You're like, well, you know, I was in a PhD program, and then, you know, I tried to do, you know, I'm in like the comedy scene, and I write for Wisecrack, and now I do this other thing.
And now I'm at KFC, and I'm trying to date the Colonel, but it's going bad. Yeah. But I think there's a sort of like... if one has like an openness and a curiosity towards what they find interesting, and I think is like open to not falling too far into specialization, I think that can lead to really interesting places. And I think it can mean that later in life, someone can do something really cool. Because even not to do like inspirational memes, but I mean, didn't Toni Morrison not publish her first book till she was in her late 40s, early 50s? Yeah, I mean and I think she worked in publishing, had a lot of different jobs, blah blah blah, becomes one of the most important writers of the 20th century. But I wonder if like Morrison had micro goals, or if it was just I don't know, openness to following her creative pursuits and interest, and not being bogged down by like age or specialization or something.
Do you think micro goals are the way to go, Serby?
I do. I think it's micro goals, but I also think that it should be this change in perspective in which you don't feel pressured. Like for me, I felt pressured to specialize at a very young age. And I remember when I realized when I was like 22 and I didn't want to do that specialty, I felt completely lost. And I felt like an unmoored gondola. Like I didn't know where to go, what to do. I just felt like I was adrift. And it took me a really, really long time to figure things out. And even now, I don't think I have it figured out.
Do you have micro goals right now?
I do. So my micro motivation was something vague. Like it was exactly do something creative and start my own business. And like reading this, I realized it doesn't actually help me further my goal or help me figure out what I want to do. And I've always said that my current full-time job will be my last one in which I work for other people. Mm-hmm. So like having this idea of like something that combines creativity with entrepreneurship does not help. So I think like I think that I'm a very goal oriented person. So for me, I think I need to have a micro motive because it helps act as my compass to figure out like, is what I'm doing helping me work towards this goal, this end goal of what I want to do. So I think for some people, a micro motive is good. For other people, maybe it's just enough to say that they want to own their own business or they want to do something that involves working outdoors. I think it just depends on like how you are. But I think the biggest thing for me is that it's important to know that you don't have to have everything figured out at a young age. And it's okay to take your time. And some people are lucky, they figure it out right away. And other people, it takes time, and that's okay too.
Anything else before we move on to delivery apps?
No, I'm good.
That was great. Thank you, sir.
That was really great.
Thank you for listening.
And is the article
right.
linked in?
Yep.
Is it going to be linked? The article that you referenced?
It's linked in the description. It's called, I think, The Art of Blooming Late in the Harvard Business Review. Check it out. But next up, we got Dr. Hot and Sweaty himself.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what you got.
Okay, so I just want to talk about delivery apps, and I imagine no matter where you live, there's something like this. If you're in a major city, they're definitely popping. If you're in a smaller town, you probably have these too. But in particular, food delivery apps, so things like Caviar and Grubhub and DoorDash and Postmates and Uber Eats and Seamless, and I think I've hit most of the main ones. And I think there's 3 different reasons I think we should be a little bit, if not troubled, self-critical about these apps and how we use them. The first one would sort of be the economic or labor-based reason, and I think a lot of people probably saw this, but DoorDash came under a lot of heat in recent weeks and months. Yeah, so, and just in case anyone missed this, the gist of it was DoorDash says to their drivers, you have this guaranteed rate. So, for example, I know if you're a DoorDash driver and you're in Manhattan, you're meant to get something like $10.50 an hour no matter what. What that would mean, however, is that $10.50 per delivery. What that means, though, is if your service fee and the restaurant fee and everything like that is below $10.50 and you were getting tips, they were using your tips towards your base rate and not giving you tips on top of your base rate. This is also what Caviar does, and there's an article I found. I can link to it personally. You can find me online and see it. But a shocking majority of the companies are all doing this. So either taking a chunk out of the tips or using the tips towards their pay. Pretty standard practice. And I think it's something that should make us all, feel a little weird or bad or self-critical about how we use these things. And I don't know if anyone's ever had this experience, but often if you tip cash, which personally, I think if we use these apps, we should. Often the delivery person will have a heightened reaction to it because they're actually getting cash and not having an app take things away. So that's kind of reason 1. I think that we should maybe rethink how we use these apps. Reason 2, slightly less serious, but still kind of serious, is it ruins food. We order so much stuff now. There's certain foods that don't travel well, that will overcook and steam in their... Yeah, and years ago, Chef David Chang, the guy that runs the Momofuku Empire, he actually started a delivery service that I think was just based in New York at one point. And something he said was that the biggest problem with that industry was they were delivering foods that were just restaurant foods, not foods designed for delivery. So something he tried to do with his service was design foods and meals that were meant to be delivered. So for example, and people do this, and if you do this, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Getting French fries. French fries get soggy and lose their crispy texture if they're delivered. Anything
they're
fried
just steaming in their moisture. It's disgusting.
Yes, anything breaded, anything fried. Most things noodle-based will tend to overcook, and the noodles could get either gummy or too soggy. There's a lot of things that just don't hold well. I would say the 2 universally deliverable foods would be pizza and Chinese food, or things that are generally like rice and protein based, tend to do pretty
soups,
well.
I think.
Yeah, I think soups can do pretty well. But it's another thing where it's like when we deliver food sometimes, we're spending way more than we would just going to a restaurant to get a lesser version of something. And I know in cities like Los Angeles and New York, and I'm sure a lot of other major cities, really nice, almost like high-end restaurants are doing delivery stuff now, but they take so long to get there, you're paying more for a really shitty version of the thing. The third thing that's weird about delivery services, and this one is the most frivolous of all these reasons, it's so awkward, and I don't know, maybe this is just me. I feel so bad sometimes if I get delivery and someone's like working their ass off and I'm just this asshole that's too lazy to walk down the street, so you order something, and then if you order on your own sometimes you have to pay money just to hit the minimum. So you're just like throwing money at the wall, and in some cases spending $22 for a $10 meal. And I just wonder, is this like good for our culture and society that we're becoming increasingly dependent on these things? Because it seems like it's screwing up labor, it's screwing up our appreciation and enjoyment of food, and just making us these weird gnomes that live inside our little holes and don't like to go interact with other people. I give my time.
Yeah.
I don't
Thoughts?
use delivery services, mostly because I don't like people knowing where I live. Like that kind of weirds me out. Like it maybe like out of safety things. And I also don't like it when like ride sharing apps come to pick me up at my house and stuff. Like that makes me nervous too. So that's one reason. Another reason is that I think it's a waste of money, like the delivery fee or like hitting that threshold. I would rather just pick up. Oh, first of all, I don't eat out very often anyway, but when I do, I would either go to the restaurant or order for pickup and just get it. Like I like driving over there and like just getting it and coming back home. I also think the food is cold by the time it gets to you. So I really like eating hot food, almost to the point where it like scalds my throat. So
Yes.
I just don't like eating lukewarm food. It just feels gross to me.
There is something that feels really bad about being an adult and eating lukewarm food.
I feel like for the reasons you described, and I never articulated them that way, so thank you very much, but like you sort of pieced all the puzzles together for me in my mind. I almost always exclusively order different kinds of Asian cuisine because I think they do travel well. And so like Chinese food, Thai food, although you're claiming my noodles are overcooked, so my world is shattered.
Oh, I would just say like a ramen or a pho, if they leave the noodles in the broth on delivery, you are overcooking them. But a lot of, I think most good places will separate those two elements.
They do.
And allow you to combine them. So in that case, you're good.
Delivery pho, great. I feel like a lot of people use it as a crutch for like depression. And I mean that literally. Like someone was telling me about someone they knew. They lived across the street from a burger place, but instead of walking, and this is like in Manhattan, right? Like literally 100 feet from your door is a burger place, and they were ordering it delivery, and it was just so sad. And also they're going to get soggy even in that short walk because it's going to be sitting, it's going to be disgusting. And then I use a lot of delivery. So I started recently getting like groceries delivered because I realized it was about the same amount of money, and then I could cook more and save more money that way. I feel kind of bad. It seems like I'm like, oh, they're kind of just like servants to people who have more money, and that makes me feel like a big asshole. And then so on one end, I want to tip them a lot of money, but on the other hand, I hate tip creep, I will call it, in that like, for the record, like my mom like was a waitress, all about tipping 20% at restaurants, bars, whatever. I'm so before you crucify me, just know that. But like every like a froyo place where like they're just a cashier, there's like a tip thing, and then you're like, do I feel like an asshole for not tipping them $1? But I feel like as soon as it becomes the standard to tip these new industries, then the bosses can pay them less money, and then they're beholden to like the frugality of like the assholes around them, right? Which is like like waiters can do very well for themselves, but that's the whole problem with the industry is you're like beholden to whatever jerk you're waiting on that day. And so I would prefer in the restaurant industry, even though I tip to eliminate tips as some places have done, and just like pay people more, add like an 18% service fee or anything like that. And people have experimented with that. And so like if the workers need to make more money, just charge me more. And so I'm cranky about that as well.
Yeah. But no, but I think what you said, the tip creep thing, is interesting because I had some friends from the UK in town last week, and they were shocked how in a lot of like fast casual places in America, coffee shops, whatever, you pay and they turn the digital screen, and the first thing the digital screen says is how much do you want to tip? And in some cases, and I love tipping. I think if anything, I like over tip, but it is weird sometimes if you like pay $3 for a coffee and someone's like getting the cup, filling the cup up with hot coffee, handing it back to you. A little screen is like, do you want to give them $1, $2, or $3?
Yeah, and they manipulate you, right? Because they have the option to make it 10, 15, 20, 25%, right? And so if that button was on the $3 coffee, I might be like, oh, like 60 cents for a $3 coffee, like whatever.
Yeah.
But no, in that case, they change it to a fucking dollar, and then you're essentially you're giving them like a 30%.
And you feel like an asshole because then you know that they're going to turn the screen around and they're going to look at it and they see what you did.
And the people behind you see you too, and it's blackmail, and I hate it. And just pay your workers more, please, so I don't have to feel awkward in line. Charge me more for the coffee. Go ahead, Serbi.
So I get really mad about that as well, especially when it's something very simple like that, and I feel like my coffee was only $3, and now you want me to give you $3? Like, that seems very weird. But what makes me even angrier is when I go to a restaurant and I see it at like this really like fine print on the menu. It will say something like, we add a like 20% charge to help our workers receive health insurance.
When they
and
do
I'm
that,
like,
it's never 20%. It'll be like, we add 3% so your server can go to the doctor. You don't like that?
Well, because I feel like the owner is placing that on us. Like,
but all the costs are placed on you. Like the rent is put on you. But
I think they do that though. And maybe I'm being too optimistic here, but I think when they do that, they're basically saying like, hey, listen, our prices might be slightly more than our competitors, but here's why. Like our competitor restaurant.
It's like a separate charge. So it's like the food charge, and then it was a separate charge. Like on my bill, I looked at it, and it was the food, and then it was like the health insurance charge. And that annoyed me because I was like, well, if you're just like, you should build that into the cost of the food if that's what's going on. I don't like that they were.
I think you just go to weird restaurants. I've never seen this before. I think you should not go to that place anymore. that sounds potentially sketchy.
In LA, and I was like, this is so weird. Like, it seems to me like the owner does not want, like, if you're required by law to provide health insurance, if you meet that threshold of like 50 employees or whatever, and you don't want to pay for it, you're placing that on us. And it's a separate charge on the bill. And it was some outrageous amount too. Like, it was some crazy percentage where I was like, if you're charging every single patron in this restaurant 3%, that is far more, like, that it far exceeds the cost of health insurance for your 50 employees. Like, I did the math, like, hypothetical, and I was like, you are making money off of this. Like, I don't mind. Like, I want everybody to have health insurance, but I didn't like the way it was done.
You want your friends and family to have health insurance, and you think the people that make your food should die in the streets. That's fine. If that's how you feel, that's great. Nothing's wrong with that. So that's our show. That's what Serbi thinks.
I want people to have health insurance. I don't
there's
like it.
There's a better way. You're saying there's a better way that they could do it. They could say,
yes.
Like on the menu, they could say the sandwich is $8, but really it's $8.50 for health insurance.
Yeah.
It's right there, and it doesn't have to be a separate charge on your goddamn bill.
Yes.
Well, is our main theme here that basically the food and restaurant industry is very, very fucked. And it's fucked in such a way that someone's always getting screwed, except I guess whoever owns it. But like delivery people are getting screwed, or servers are getting screwed, or as a customer in some cases, we're getting screwed.
Server's the real victim.
What? Yes. That's our main takeaway.
It's not about paying more. It's the fact that I feel like the owner is skirting their responsibility.
Yeah, I get that.
That's what bothers me.
No, restaurant owners are historically good people. I've never heard any story about a restaurant owner being a bad person in any way, shape, or form. I also haven't been on the internet in 10 years. But
all right. With that, Serbi, I know you have to go, but I think we're going to say goodbye to Serbi because she's a busy person and not paying for health. No, I'm kidding. She's a busy person, has to go. But we're gonna answer a couple mailbag questions, just me and Mike Burns, if that's all right with everyone.
I can stay for a little bit more for mailbag.
You don't have to go throw pennies at a server or something?
I'm gonna not pay for other people's health insurance. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right. Well, with that said, Michael Burns, he's going to read the mail. But if you want to leave us a voicemail, we don't have any this week. I forgot to mention the number last week. What's that number, Mike?
If you want to leave a voicemail, please call us at 1-213-534-8807. I'll say that again, 213-534-8807. And you add the +1 if you're from outside the United States, or email us at culturebinge@wisecrack.co. Remember, no M, just C-O. Should we get right into it?
Let's get right into it.
Okay, so this is the first email. Do I say the name of the person?
First name.
Okay. First name is Sean. Hi, Wisecrack. I've been a longtime fan of all the Wisecrack content across podcasts and YouTube, and I'm loving the new content on Medium as well. Rightly so.
Yay!
Yeah. I'm writing in to inquire about the pseudoscience conversation that happened during the episode 15 of Culture Binge as prompted by the story about astrology. Well, I think you guys all raised a number of great points in the pseudoscience conversation at large. There was one that I've always been very passionate about that didn't get covered. I believe one of the biggest issues with any pseudoscience is the fact that it undermines quote-unquote real science, in parentheses whatever that is, which is a conversation for a different day. The true distinction for me between spiritual endeavors and pseudoscience is what the backing is claimed to be. As long as it is acknowledged to be unexplainable and faith-based, then if someone wants to believe in or espouse something like that, then that is their personal decision. On the other hand, if the topic in question, astrology, crystals, whatever Gwyneth Paltrow is currently babbling about, etc., does not have any grounding in science, but the purveyors of it wrongfully claim that it does, that's where a problem arises. Thanks for all the insightful conversations, Sean.
Serby, what do you got?
I think that astrology, if it is something fun and people derive enjoyment from it, that's great. I have a problem with astrology when it starts to affect other people and might result in, like, you lose money because you're paying Gwyneth Paltrow $3,000 to join her weird goop retreat because the third quadrant in Pluto told you to do so. So I think that's
Burns really like that. He is maybe spitting up his water.
in Pluto. I just want to get a shirt made that says that. That's incredible. Sorry.
So I think that's how I feel about astrology. And I do think that it does like tend to make people feel like real science is not as real. Like when we can look at our horoscope that's like, oh, but I'm Scorpio, and like it tells me that like my stomach hurts because it's Mercury retrograde. So I think that's a problem with astrology.
Yeah, and I think Sean makes an interesting point in distinguishing unexplainable and faith-based things, and how that's cool if someone wants that to have that for a personal belief. It seems like the weird thing is that line then, when something that's my personal belief starts to like affect the way I view others, or I make it more of a universal claim about how I understand reality. The same problem we have with, the difference between someone having personal religion and someone using religion as an explanatory mechanism to explain everything and then projecting it onto others. I just don't, I feel like that line isn't so clean often.
Yeah, I like Sean's comment a lot, and I think in general, it's like it's worse when it's masquerading as science, right? When they say like astrology has these real predictive powers, versus someone saying, "Oh, I think it's kind of funny to read my horoscope." But as an Aquarius, I will say, but I think to your point, the line is very, very blurry in that I often hear a line of like, someone was eating like they were on like a raw food diet, and I was like, oh, there's actually no, it's bad science. Like if you want to eat raw broccoli, like that's cool, but they were just making comments like, well, it works for me, and so like I'm not saying it's this, so they were trying to separate out like this is my personal belief versus what I think is science, but almost the like it works for me already blurs that line, right? And that this person will probably tell their friends like, oh, you should try this, and all of a sudden they're listening to like bad advice about shit instead of going to a nutritionist or going to a doctor or any of these things. So it does get tricky, and I think I said this before, but I'll say it again. I was even reminded scrolling through my Twitter of someone I went to college with who loves astrology, very intelligent person. I don't know if they're doing it ironically or not, but like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
So
yeah, go ahead.
We had this email from somebody, I'm not sure if we're reading it, so if we are, I'm sorry. But somebody said that their girlfriend was really
Yeah.
interested.
We're not
in,
reading
yeah,
that. Yeah.
we are or we're not.
We're not reading that, but go ahead.
Okay, so somebody wrote in saying that his girlfriend and her friends are really interested in astrology, and they get into heated debates about it because she blends real science with pseudoscience. So she'll say things like, "Oh, the moon affects tides,
And your body's
our
all
bodies
water."
are made of water." Yeah, so like of course it's going to affect us too, and that's what's interesting to me is that when people want to believe something, they will find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's dumb explanations for all these things. As someone who watched too many flat earth videos, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I spent some time this week reading about the TB12 diet, which is quarterback Tom Brady's diet. He developed with a controversial trainer and dietitian, and the main gist of all of it is like alkaline in your diet, and it's just patently untrue. But then in interviews with Tom Brady, people bring it up, and he's like, "Well, whether it's true or not, I'm in my mid 40s and still a really good athlete and blah, blah, blah." So I think while not all of us are winning Super Bowl titles playing for an evil sports franchise.
But you could be if you had a higher alkaline diet.
Yeah, but then people will do the thing where they're like, well, it might not be true, but my medium said this and my life went great, or my card reading said this. So I think we're also really good at proof texting things that we want to believe. And of course, we all do that. We might do it with a political candidate or a food we like or a band we like, but I think that's the risk as well. We can, in the same way we can connect the moons with our water body, we can connect, a promotion at work or someone that we fancy falling in love with us with some spiritual explanation that might be bunk.
What's next? What do we have?
Oh, we got some more heat. Email from Aaron. Hey, Wisecrack. I have some thoughts on the topic of astrology. I'm 22 years old. I take part in horoscope, tarot readings, etc., but I don't believe that it's real science. This person's letting us know they have a Bachelor of Science in Biomedical Science. Shouts to that. That's great. I agree with Serby when she said that a reason people might be into astrology is that it's something people can identify with. But also, for me personally, I find doing these readings makes me look at different areas of my life more closely and also carry out some personal reflection. I have depression, so this acts as a sort of self-care routine. With what appears to be an increase in depression, anxiety within younger generations, this may be another reason for its increasing popularity. I understand that a lot of these readings are generalized and therefore can be very easily applied to somebody's life, but that might also be another reason why people connect with it so deeply. Just my 2 cents on the matter. Love the podcast. It's from Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah,
No, but I think that's a good point. I think we brought that up last time as the cultural alienation, increased rates of depression and anxiety, and this being, a way to cope with those sorts of things. That sounds legit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
I
think
like that. I think it's a great creative coping mechanism.
we got one more email, and then we're off for the day.
Okay, this is from Nick.
I think this email in the subject said Alec is right. I so regret saying that ever because now I will never know. Everything anyone ever says to me in an email through Wisecrack will always be qualified by they probably don't mean it.
Yeah, so Nick, who otherwise is always right, was wrong about Alec being... Okay, so he says this. Hi, Wisecrack. Oh, another scientist. I love all the scientist emails.
Yeah,
I'm a zoologist, ecologist. That's dope, Nick. Good career choice. And I wanted to email you some info about something Alec said when he was talking about the Amazon rainforest. Alec mentioned that there may be some less charismatic species in the rainforest that people don't know/care about. This is a big thing in conservation. There are groups of species called flagship species, charismatic organisms that people want to protect, and umbrella species, species protected to protect their habitat and therefore other species in that habitat. A good example is the panda. Thought I'll get to in a second. Pandas are horrible at existing, i.e., they have a carnivore digestive system, yet almost exclusively eat bamboo, which is one of the hardest plants to digest, and in human care, they would rather masturbate than mate.
Sound like anybody else you know?
Shut up! I told you not to tell anyone. Oh boy, but they are cute. Oh, next page. But they are cute, so people want to protect them. That gives us an excuse to protect their habitat and therefore protect other organisms in that environment. Hope you found that interesting. Keep up the great work, Nick. I just want to say that I couldn't help but thinking pandas are cute, and I think that's the mascot of Panda Express, to get back to our first topic.
You're dating sim with Panda Express. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was even having a conversation with one of our writers about she's getting her PhD and does a lot of animal stuff. She's written some scripts for us. But anyway, we all hate mosquitoes, but actually they're super important. In fact, it is hypothesized that maybe the reason that like humans have placentas and therefore can bear children the way that we do. We're pretty sure that we got that ability from a virus, but one of the ways we got that virus could be mosquitoes because they're big transmitters of viruses, and viruses are also kind of important. So if we extinct all the mosquitoes, there might be some repercussions we haven't thought about. I think that's the extreme example, but there's probably like slimes and fungi that are way more important for the ecosystem than pandas who can't even have sex to save their own existence. So love this email. Love all the science email.
Yeah, and that reminds me of the Aldo Leopold stuff about I'm going to say this wrong, so someone please correct me in comments. But looking at like thinking about ecological conservation as from like an ecosystem framework. So considering the fact that all of these things interact, and things that we might not enjoy might be necessary, even things that we somehow look at as harmful, and I find that to be a really helpful and productive way to view like climates and environments.
Mm-hmm.
This is just another example of how good-looking people have an easier time in life.
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
So,
Yeah.
Like, all those
wait,
poor
do you
fungi.
want good-looking people to have health care, Serby, or do you want them to?
Well, obviously, I care more about good-looking people than regular people.
Oh, boy.
I think that's a great place to end. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope that you all have the healthcare that you need. I'm Alec. You can follow me on Twitter at Wisecrack Alec. Michael O'Burns on Twitter, right?
Yeah, Michael O'Burns on Twitter, yeah.
And Serby, you are?
Suri Patel 22 on Twitter. And I also want you to have health insurance.
Yeah, maybe, allegedly. So leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. It'll help other people discover this. Check out the South Park podcast. And that's the last thing I'll bug you to do today. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.